33. Our first speaker, so all speakers should say their names and addresses. I ask that there be decorum at all times in council chambers, but in this room. So if you could cooperate with that, I'd appreciate it. First speaker is Richard Brown. Each speaker has approximately 3 minutes.
Okay, I am so disappointed. This is the only people who showed up tonight. Anyways, my name is Dick Brown. I think I know most of the people in the room.
Your address, please.
Pardon?
Your address, please.
Oh, 6375 Main Street. Been in this town for 45 years. Been involved with everything. Raised 3 kids. And I've had 3 kids go through the Stratford school system, which, by the way, got a very excellent education. I got one going NYU law. I got one, going into a doctorate program. We all did excellent in the school system. I'm a realtor. And you don't know how hard this nonsense is and how degrading it is to our town. You go out there and you try to promote this town, and what's going on is despicable. We have, your new budget is taking out the Economic Development Office. Insane. The answer is bringing business into town. And if you think that this is conducive to this town, this infighting, okay, it's insane, okay? You said decorum before. I don't think half these piano people know what it is. I taught my kids, you respect a person for 2 things, the position they hold and who they are. You don't have to like the mayor, but damn it, he's the mayor. You should treat him with respect, okay? But what goes on, it's on TV. My wife watches it, people watch it. Didn't they bring a business into this town after they watch this nonsense? You people scream and talk to each other like you're in some backyard schoolyard. It's despicable. As far as balancing the budget, increases go on. Everything goes on. 2003, I had a friend of mine on the council. Everybody had their arms around each other. Guess what? We had a balanced budget. I looked at the budget. They didn't fund anything into the pension fund, which was only $35 million in deficit at the time, because we made 9% of the money. We had a little over $11 million in bonding. They bonded another $9 million. They borrowed $20 million they were short, but they had their arms around each other. Every 2 years, I've seen 22 councils. Everybody wants, I'm not a politician, I'm going to cut your taxes. You're not going to cut taxes. Things go on. Salaries go on. Utilities go up. Car payments go up. Everything goes up. When Jimmy Meyer became mayor here, there wasn't one piece of equipment that was bought in this town in over 20 years. Over 20 years. The floorboards were rusted out in the trucks. He passed that pile of crap on to Mr. Harkins, okay? And that's what he's living with. He talks about cronyism. And I know John for a lot of years, don't agree with a lot of things. But we have a town clerk, we have a town assessor, we have a town tax collector that were here when Jimmy Meyer hired them. Harkins kept them because they're doing a good job. Nothing political. I don't even know if they're Republicans or they're Democrats. They did a good job. And each one of them is probably underpaid for the position compared to any town with the size. The same size. Okay? I urge this council to stand up. We have a problem at the Board of Ed, and it's with too many administrators. For years, Stratford had 2 principals and 3 assistant principals. Now they have 1 principal, 3 assistants. They have 3 assistants up at Bunnell. You've got assistant principals. They go from making $65, $70 a year as a teacher to $126,000 as an assistant principal. And they tell you it's core, it's mandated, it's this or that. Get a secretary for $42,000 a year. They do the paperwork anyways. But it's too late to do that. We're here now. This is the budget now. You guys got to pass this budget. Not the ones that we keep on coming up with. Go for the one that's on the table. Don't like it? We don't like the tax increases, but put it to bed. If you think that anybody serving this town, you call each other names, you show up, there's no decorum, there's no respect here. It's embarrassing to me. This is my town. I've been here 45 years. I raise kids, grandkids, and I am disgusted and I'm heartbroken that we have to do this that you people can't treat each other better. You talk to each other like garbage. It's disgusting. You eat during the lunch, you come in with shorts and sandals. There's no respect here. You're elected by the people. Stand up and be respectable. Get a budget passed. Pass the one that the mayor wants. I'm not a Republican. John and I have had many outs, but you know what? Get going, and let's get the economic development going. Let's get some business in this town, because without it, you think the taxpayer's hurting now, the homeowner? You wait, because there's no good ending in this. We've got to develop it. You want to take and cut the economic development office to part-time? So if Amazon that loves Connecticut just put in 2,000 more jobs, they're going to call up and they're going to get a message, call back in a couple of days, we don't have a full-time economic development office? Is that what you want? What are they going to do? They put 2,000 jobs at the streets, their second facility in the state. Okay? Who's going to bring them in here? This nonsense isn't. A good economic development trained office is going to do it. I beseech you, please, come on. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. The next speaker is Barbara Hanlon.
So here we are, once again, to witness the town council's attempt to set a budget without intention. 2 budgets have been passed and vetoed by a lame duck mayor who doesn't own property and pays no property taxes, drives a town car paid for by my tax dollars, and since he doesn't own property, it's probably going to pass on the sewer assessment also. Harkins and his administration bemoan the dire consequences to the town should he not get his way and have a mill rate increase. But I ask you this, he had 7 years to chart a path of fiscal responsibility and has not done so. He robbed from the PCA, which turned out to be illegal, took money from the railroad fund, included $2 million in revenues from the sale of the Mercer Fuel property, which to date is still unsold. People are not moving to Stratford because of the school system. They're not buying here because of the taxes. Timiak tried to shame you all on Monday when he told you that all the surrounding towns had passed a budget. But all of the surrounding towns passed a budget that either lowered their mill rate or left it the same. Even Bridgeport left it the same. I'm with the so-called hardliners who wanted to cut so much more, but were cautioned they couldn't because it was political. And on an added note, what right does a council person have to call a potential candidate and threaten them if they run, and smear a sitting council person's family? Talk about the court. No more taxes.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Roseanne Neary.
Yeah.
My name is Rose. My name is I guess. My name is Roseanne Neary. I live at 125 Holmes Street. I've been in Stratford for 45 years. I left Bridgeport to buy a home in Stratford because taxes were outrageous in Bridgeport. We find ourselves here with 2 budgets that have been passed and a mayor who keeps vetoing them. He's one person. The council has spoken. We cannot afford more taxes. The more we tax, the less people move into town. People are not going to buy in Stratford if taxes keep going up. I'm sure there are places in the budget that are not as crucial as others. And once again, it's 5:30 at night, we're having a public forum, and people are coming home from work and have been working all day so they can pay those same taxes. As Barbara said, 169 towns passed budgets. Even Monroe, who never passes a budget on the first pass, has passed a budget with lower taxes or taxes that are the same. So who looks foolish here? We're a small town. And quite frankly, I still never believed we should have had a mayor. We should have had a town manager because at least we can fire him. I moved here because it was a town with no mayor. I know what politics are like. Been in politics all my life, either knowing about them, talking about them. This is not what should be happening. If he doesn't like the budget, he doesn't, we don't even know if he lives here. That's not a good thing. What stake does he have? He's an outgoing mayor. And what's wrong with people? The people who did not override his veto. 2 budgets got passed. Please don't blame everybody for not passing a budget because 2 budgets were passed. Came up with 2 budgets, he vetoed both. Don't blame the town council, blame those people who couldn't find it in their conscience and in their right mind to override his veto. That's why you can do that. It's in the Constitution. So don't, the chair tried to shame everyone that nothing got passed on Monday. Oh, well, too bad. It didn't get passed because you didn't have the courage to override his veto. And it takes courage to do those things. You worked together, you came up with 2 budgets, and he has the unmitigated gall to veto 2 of them. He's one person. You could have overrode that budget. Don't blame everybody else and say, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. It isn't falling. You'll come up with a way, I'm sure. Don't blame everybody else. Oh, you couldn't pass the thing on Monday. Yeah, you couldn't pass it because you'll let him override the veto. And it's on you, those people who didn't override his veto.
First, let me apologize up front for my appearance, because normally I wouldn't dress like this, but I coach lacrosse, and I'm going right to practice from here, so I won't be able to stay around and hear everybody stuff.
Thank you for coaching.
Yeah. So, let me say this. Out of
I'm sorry, you need to state your name and address.
Trevor Schofield, 18 Edmund Street, in Stratford. I actually lived in this town. Half my whole life, 39 years, lived in this town. When I was 20 years old, I got a job in the tech industry. Lucked out and got with a company that gave me some nice stock options. That paid off. Guess what? I was now a 20-year-old with enough money to afford to buy a home. So I did, in my hometown. I didn't leave, even though I was working in New York City, I stayed here. I studied where I was going to live in this town based on tax rates. My house was $2,400 a year in taxes when I bought it. I'm now at $6,000. $6,000. My house is 1,480 square feet on 0.07 of an acre. That's ridiculous. And I personally, I know we're not going to get to a spot where everything that everybody wants is going to happen. It never happens. There's never enough money to go around. But what's bothering me here is, and unless it's just a bad marketing job on the part of the 4 that are against the budget, the reduced budget, there doesn't seem to be give and take going on. There seems to be a lot of backroom talk. There seems to be these groups huddled up and these groups huddled up, but nobody coming together and saying, you know what, I can work with you. You know what, I'm out of here in November as the mayor, so cut the chief of staff salary down to 20 grand just to pay off what's left until I'm gone, and then that position can go away. I work in corporate America, all right? I have 37,000 people in my company, globally. I'm on call 24 hours a day. I don't have an assistant, and an assistant to an assistant, and an assistant to that assistant. Okay? Guess what? We are a luxury brand company that I work for. We did okay last year. Not great. So guess what departments did? They trimmed the fat to save laying off employees at the lower levels. They got rid of people at the higher levels where it was redundant. Okay? That can happen. There has to be give and take. And I'm not saying, let's not fund the Board of Ed. Unfortunately, we are where we are with the Board of Ed. Whatever we agree to this year, we're stuck with, because that's the law. We can't go backwards. But that doesn't mean that we still can't continue with the audit down that trail, and we discover ways to save money there that we can then put towards other things for our children in the school system. So, listen, fund the Board of Ed to what Scott has proposed and Greg has worked on. Fund the Board of Ed. But find the money elsewhere. And Beth, I urge you, please reconsider and override this veto.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Sonia Devitt.
Sonia, excuse me, I'm sorry I'm hoarse tonight. Sonia Devitt, 545 Hilltop Drive in Stratford. First, thank you for plugging away at this. You've got stamina, that's all I can say. Whatever budget you enact, it must be without utilizing or playing games with the WPCA money. That should be totally off the table. Let's just get that out of the way. We don't need that revenue. We can operate without it. I have just a couple of points after I left Monday's meeting during the caucus recess. After speaking with a few council persons, on the way home, I came to a sudden understanding of the significance of Mr. Cahn's and others' frustration and anger at Mr. Timniak. The council, and only the council, approves the budget and sets the mill rate. At least one council person over a period of several weeks felt a need for certain information before he could make an informed and responsible decision. The person who could provide that information is Mr. Timniak. The council person made repeated requests of Mr. Timniak for an itemization and quantification of the contractual obligations that had to be paid by special appropriation from July 1st until a new budget is passed or the town runs out of money. Mr. Timniak did not provide the requested itemization and quantification. At Monday's meeting, Mr. Timniak at least twice stated that he did not provide this information because he did not want the council to get hung up on individual items or details of these contracts. What? It's not Mr. Timniak's place, or the mayor's place, or anyone else in the administration's place to decide for the council what information they should or should not get. If council persons believe they need certain information, it is Mr. Timniak and his staff's job to provide it, whether they like it or not. If the council members get hung up on the details, that's their problem. That's all of your problems. That Mr. Timniak thinks the information is unnecessary or will only complicate things or drag things out, that's not his concern. It's not the prerogative of the CAO or any other person in the administration to save the council members from themselves. Besides, anything, a bill or whatever, can be considered a contract without knowing what contracts you were going to be including in that appropriation that you were supposed to vote on. You cannot be sure what you're authorizing because of certain bills and all can be considered contracts, and they say, well, we had to pay them because we had an obligation. So you had an obligation to know what those are. In my opinion, Mr. Timniak's behavior is blatant disrespect and contempt of council and is a dismissible offense. I have a budget suggestion. You can forbear a couple of minutes. The current mill rate is 38.99. The mayor's request is for a mill rate of 39.7. Set the mill rate at 39.2. Make the total budget what that is projected to yield, and adjust the sum to the Board of Ed proportionally. That increases the mill rate by less than 1/4 of a mil and shaves the mayor's request by 1/2 a mil. Let the administration adjust the line items. Finally, I believe that whoever is mayor, and there's some people with aspirations for that, I believe in the audience. Finally, I believe that whoever is mayor would benefit from listening to the public at these forums, and the public would feel respected.
Thank you very much. Before the next sheet comes up, is there anybody who would like to sign it? Anybody else wanted to sign that? Next speaker is Joe Paul.
Madam Chair and Town Council. Hope you can hear me okay. It's a different venue. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my observations of the conduct of this council for the past 4 weeks. And especially the one that took place Monday, it just appears that there's a very low trust level of the members of not only the council but also this administration. And I'll tell you, before the next budget season, I suggest a team building exercise for everybody involved because there's no team spirit on this panel. There should be.
I don't think this microphone.
Oh, someone turned it off. Ah, okay. I'll start with Joe Paul, 47 Harborview Place. I hope we get a restart. What I was talking about before I was heard was the trust level with the town council and also with the administration. And we need to really improve and gain some trust amongst each other. And I know that there's been some bad numbers provided and there's been some lack of numbers provided. And those are the kind of root causes that make for distrust. But I would hope going forward we try to put some of those wounds away and we move forward towards a collective effort and putting together a budget that this town can live with. See, my observation shows that we're really seeing ourselves, disrespectful amongst ourselves on the council, unprofessional, and downright not civil. And I hope that going forward we start to put a better foot forward because we are being looked at by not only within our community but outside our community, and it doesn't bode well for the town of Stratford. Now, I don't know, but what I've got to say is who amongst you tonight are going to take the lead and get into making a decision that's going to be the best decision for the taxpayers of this town? Now, we've got an outgoing mayor. He's only got 6 months to go. So I heard cries for an override of that veto, and I'm going to suggest that we do override that veto. And if I'm the next mayor coming in, I'll live with those numbers, and I'll position the town to be in better condition going forward. Because the next mayor is going to have his hands full. This mayor is the lame duck. He's got 6 months. He should be able to manage this town for 6 months with the budget that has been presented. So I really want to see someone step forward and make that happen. Now, as I see it, the argument lies within a disagreement mainly over policies and compliance with the law. And that, where I'm going with that is that there's enterprise funds that are being used as revenue, that the budget that's been revised over and over again and vetoed over and over again is trying to straighten that out. Now, if there's a need for another legal opinion, maybe we go to an outside counsel from the state level and rule on that. But if it's not in compliance with our state regulation to use those enterprise funds for the town's expenses, then we shouldn't be doing it, and we should be creating a transition plan away from doing it. And that's where the negotiations comes in, and that's where the team building comes in for you guys to get together and see what we can pay for without those enterprise funds and what we can't pay for with those enterprise funds. And then we can take a look at how we manage this town with a little bit of a shortfall. And if it means further cuts, then we make further cuts. I, as a leader of this town, if I was the mayor, I would go back to every one of my department heads and I just tell them, give me 2%. If everybody gave him 2%, he'd have more than enough to meet this budget. But I don't know if anybody's coming to the table with any cuts, or if he's taking the lead and asking for those kind of cuts. Because that's how we do it in corporate America. We need 2% to come down in our budget. Everybody pitches in, we share the pain equally, And it's easier done, because you know why? When you have many departments, sharing the sacrifice is easier than putting it on one or two. And we all know that the administration is a little top-heavy anyway, so that cut should be even more than 2%. So when you average it out, we should be coming in line with this budget. So here's the question. How much of the town's expenses can we be paid without the enterprise funds? Now, I don't know if you worked on that before today's meeting, because if you didn't work on that, I don't have a lot of faith that today you're going to come up with an agreed-upon budget. Because if you don't override the veto, and you got to go back to the drawing board, it's going to take team effort, and it's going to take you guys to really look at this objectively and put the egos outside the door and come in and work hard to come up with a plan that the taxpayers can live with. And I really think we're close enough to where we can come in with a budget that's flat and we don't have to increase the mill rate. I really think if you roll up your sleeves and sharpen your pencils, you can get there. So my best to you. I appreciate the hard work you're doing. I just wish you would do it more civilly, and I hope going forward it is done more civilly. Thank you very much.
Or is this a joint? Tina, is this joint? Yeah. Or is it? Okay, it's Teresa Piccolo and Tina Manis.
Hi, I'm Teresa Menace-Piccolo, 315 Fox Hill Road. I prepared something. I'm not in corporate America, so this is not going to be anything fancy with numbers and stuff like that. Good evening. Thank you for calling a meeting at a more inclusive hour, first of all. Last meeting I came here, I asked council to vote in favor of people. Obviously, nothing happened. I've listened to opinions. I've asked you all to listen to opinions. Even the ones that you don't agree with, please just start listening to people. So here, we're here again. I only ask for two things. Number one, Madam Chair, please use your gavel. It's the one thing, you know, that you have, and, you know, people get angry, people get passionate, you know, but you have power to stop events. You can stop things. So please use your power, stop the chaos, protect your friends and your co-councilors. Secondly, I ask for you to consider the people that you are all not, the underprivileged. Many of you belong, you are here and you think you belong in that group and you feel like you are underprivileged in some way. I know you're privileged. This is how I know. You have a vote. You have a say. Once we sit down, we have no say. You are our say. I've said it before, our town is divided, and the only person who can change that is all of you. We have no say. You are our votes. Consider the mill rate and the tax changes. I've heard the number 40 cents thrown around, 40 cents a day. I'm sure you've all heard that. Some of you may be able to pay that. Maybe you'll go out to eat less. Maybe you'll drop the African kid like you adopted last spring. I bet she'll be fine. But own that privilege and accept that you're going to be okay and that you're not the average person. 40 cents a day amounts to about $2.80 per week. Still reasonable. It's about $11.20 per month, give or take. Sounds doable. Drive less, don't buy coffee every morning. Over the course of the year, it'll cost each of us, though, $146. Some of us don't have that, especially after all the tax increases over the years. That's 1 week of groceries for the average family, cable bill, heat or electric bill, car payment or gas, however you want to look at it. So consider it. Consider the fact that the Board of Ed reserves 3 times what they need for heating oil every year. Should our families go with no heat for 1 month to surplus their account? Should I live without cable and internet so that each office in Town Hall and multiple municipal offices enjoy daytime TV? Or maybe you're suggesting I live with no electricity for 1 month and I like candles. Maybe you think I should fall behind on my car payments so that our town employees who don't necessarily need a car have the luxury. Hear that word? Luxury. So yes, some of us can't afford the increases that you plan. Some of us don't have privilege and luxuries in our life. Some of us have to work, and if our spouses, if we have them, they work too. Some of us are lucky to make it paycheck to paycheck. So please, consider us. The ones you call dysfunctional behind closed doors and on phone calls, the ones you shut out of your business, the ones you can't relate to because of your privilege. If things like this continue going, I'd like to apply for a job. I like silver cars. I prefer the vegetarian meal for all the lunches. You can fill my gas tank every morning. I like watching Judge Judy. make sure I get that channel. Thank you.
So now it's Tina Manis.
Tina Manis, 315 Oxel Road. I just wanted to elaborate on what my sister said. I agree with her 100%, but I do feel the need to come here before you to say something about a man that's sitting home who is not here to speak for himself. You have met my dad, many of you have met him. My father has cared for 2 elderly parents-in-law his entire life. He nursed my mother till she died. My father has carried on with work, and when he wasn't in work, that's what he did. My father is a difficult person for me sometimes, but he's my dad. And no one has the right to judge my family, my sister or my dad, privately or publicly. I could say whatever I want, but that's my dad, and that's my sister. And I resent the fact that they were called unstable, and they were called chaotic. You know what? That's my house. My father wants to save every piece of garbage or every piece of tinfoil he's ever had, so be it, because he'll stay with me till the day he dies, because that's what I promised my mother. I love my parents, I love my sister, and I love my family, and I wouldn't have them any other way. And I want to say that publicly. He is not here to defend himself. The attacks on senior citizens need to stop. Because guess what? When I walk my district, District 10, I need lots of people just like him that are holding on to everything because they feel like everything is slipping away. Please, please remember that. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wanted to sign up? Okay. Well, we will break until 6:15 and then see if there's anybody. 6:06.